is the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra still the best phone you can get in 2024? We're getting the end of 2024. We've now had every major launch that you're going to see for this year. The OnePlus 12, the iPhone 16 series phone, 16 Pro, Pro Max, the Google Pixel 9, 9 Pro, 9 Pro XL. The S24 Ultra, I think, at least here in the United States, sat kind of at the top of the pack for a long time. And I think it's still probably just about the most complete phone. And it offers a few things that really the other phones don't offer. One, you have the S Pen. Everybody knows about the S Pen, the Ultra series. It replaced the Note a couple of years ago. There's rumors we could go back to the Note. So if you care about the S Pen, if you care about the multitasking experience and the capabilities that it offers, then that's something that still you can't really put a price tag on when you compare it to other phones. That's something that's nice. And then also you get DeX. So I think with a One UI 6.1 perspective, going into One UI 7 with Android 15 in January, of course the new S25 will be out then, that will, I think, help elevate it to another level. But I think Galaxy AI, probably the most best integrated. I mean, basically most of it's just rebranded Google AI stuff. But really, when you take a look at it, One UI 6.1, solid software experience, very polished. And also you've got DeX, you've got wireless DeX. So you can connect this to a TV, a monitor, you can plug it in, you can use it wirelessly, and you can do your multitasking, use it just like it's a computer. Which I've been a big fan of DeX when it comes to like the tablets and the keyboards because it's so easy and it makes sense. I'm not a big fan of DeX from a phone perspective, but I know some people do use it, and you can connect peripherals and accessories, a keyboard, whatever. You can do some cool stuff with it. However, I don't really use it that way, and I think most people don't either. So if you care for DeX and you care for the multitasking capabilities, I mean, we still don't have split screen with the iPhone. And we've got the latest and greatest iPhone that's out now, the 16 Pro Max, which I've got right here. And yeah, still there's no such thing as split screen on these phones. So I think when you take a look at it, there's a lot there that's to like. But I mean, other phones have caught up and definitely passed it in certain areas. You can't get more than 12 gigabytes of RAM. RAM will be important for future applications, and also when it comes to using AI and stuff like that. If you take a look at the Google Pixel 9 Pro XL or even the 9 Pro, they have 16 gigabytes of RAM. 16 gigabytes of RAM definitely makes it more future-proof, especially because the phone has at least 3 gigabytes of dedicated RAM set aside for AI tasks. So you've got basically the same level of RAM proficiency, but you have that dedicated extra when it comes to RAM. The selfie camera, I think, is good, but I think now with the 42 megapixel selfie camera on the Pixel 9 Pro, 9 Pro XL, I think it's better when it comes to front-facing video. I think it definitely challenges that as well with the smoothness, with all the great stuff that the Pixel has brought to the scene with that. The microphones are pretty good on the Pixel. I think they're still better on the Samsung. But if you take a look at it, a lot of people are not crazy about the Google Tensor 4. I mean, yeah, it's a Samsung-made chip. Samsung makes the Exynos. Samsung also makes the Tensor. The Tensor is not the same as the Exynos by any stretch of the imagination, but it is made by Samsung, and that kind of has a stigma attached to it people don't really care about. But from a day-to-day experience, you take a look at the phones, you take a look at them side by side, you use them. Great experience across the board. You've got Material U and stock Android over here, which is more impressive to me than ever. I mean, from my experience with the S24 Ultra, the iPhone 16 Pro Max, and then also picking up the Pixel 9 Pro XL, the 9 Pro XL has been the most fun, most refreshing, and surprising experience for me out of these three phones. Like, you pick up the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra, coming from the S23 Ultra, it feels like basically the same phone. Yes, it's got titanium. Yeah, they shaved a little bit of the weight. Yeah, it's got that 5 times telephoto instead of the 10 now, which is better for like your portrait shots and stuff. And hey, by the way, the iPhone and the Pixel also have a 5 times telephoto. So how does that come into play, right? Well, I mean, you still get the 100 times zoom. So I think the zoom, especially at long distance, is still better with the Samsung. But for up close, about the same, really. And if you take a look at the DxOMark scores and things like that, the Pixel is better. You get faster, more responsive shutter speed, and I like the pictures that the Pixel takes better than the Samsung. So when you take a look at it from that regard, yeah, but you also get 8K video at 24 and 30 frames per second with the S24 Ultra. That's kind of a nicety there. 5,000 milliamp battery. I think the Snapdragon 8 Generation 3 is a little bit more polished when it comes to having a better, more balanced battery experience. But hey, you're still going to get all-day battery with the Pixel 9 Pro XL. And then talking about some other stuff, like with the iPhone, The iPhone 16 Pro Max, you bring this into the equation, you take a look at both of these, you get 4K 120 frames per second for your slow-mo video. You can't do that over here. And then I think the iPhone, it has better overall video taking capability, and you also get the studio level microphone experience too. And I definitely think the microphones before I thought were kind of better with Samsung, but I think the microphones are better with the iPhone now. And of course, like the Samsung phone, you've got Gorilla Glass Victus armor versus ceramic shield that you have over here with the iPhone. They're both about the same, really. They both are the best in class. You still got Victus 2 over on the Pixel, but it is one of those nice things where I think the Victus armor has been the best we've ever had. And then when you take a look at the screens themselves, there's one nice thing that you get is you get that reflective screen, the anti-reflective screen with Samsung, which is cool. They've also incorporated that into the new Samsung Galaxy Tab S10 Plus and S10 Ultra. Rest in peace to the regular Tab S10, which I'm not particularly happy about. But yeah, you've got titanium in both of these phones. You've got, the latest and greatest iOS, but the problem is we still don't have any of the Apple Intelligence features. So Apple Intelligence has been an afterthought for Apple, so that wasn't very intelligent. They let other people get basically about 2 years ahead of the game, and still, I think the Galaxy AI is the best integrated and best polished. I love the interpreter app that they have on here, and then you get Circle to Search, which of course is you have that on the Pixel as well. But yeah, you've got Pixel Studio stuff. You can create the images. Of course, you can create images and stuff with this one as well. You got the sketch to image, which is kind of neat, which I don't really use, but you can if you want. So there's a lot of different things that these phones bring to the table and they offer, but Samsung, I think, is the best, most put out there experience when it comes to AI at this current point in time. And then when you take a look at the Apple, it's still not going to have fully functional Apple Intelligence till sometime next year, after probably the S25 is out. And the S25 will have its own new robust AI features with it as well. So if you care about AI, it's an ever-evolving front, and I think Samsung and Google are definitely in front here in the United States. With Apple, I mean, they're even trailing kind of OnePlus, and OnePlus was kind of like, we're not even going to do AI, and then, they're like, we're going to do AI. So they've got some camera features, their own Magic Eraser and stuff. Apple is finally getting their own Magic Eraser tool, which you could use with Google Photos already. If you had like the Google One subscription, you could get that. Or I think they might have even made it free finally. I don't ever use it with the I don't really use Magic Eraser, period, but especially much less like if I'm not using a Pixel phone. But yeah, Apple's finally getting their own version of it about 2 years after everybody else. So yeah, AI is not really much in the conversation. The cameras, data experience, One UI is nice. It's really been such a good experience. I think it's crisp, it's polished, it's refined. There's a great legacy and there's a great reputation with the Samsung phones. 7 years of operating system updates, 7 years of security patches. That's basically the same across the board. Apple's kind of been doing that for the longest time. Shoot, they just gave iOS 18 to the iPhone XS and XR, which came out, 7 years ago, 6 years ago, something like that. And then over here with the Pixel and Samsung, they've got 7 years as well. So the main point of the story is it's not just cut and dry anymore. And it's interesting because you're kind of like polar opposites with these phones, because the Samsung phone comes out at the beginning of the year. But what's impressive about the Samsung phone at the beginning of the year is it sets the tone for the whole year. And even at the end of the year, you're like, wow, this phone is still a candidate for phone of the year, even though other phones have had an opportunity to come out after this phone has come out, which is crazy. And so many phones don't even try to address many of the features. I mean, if you take a look at camera capability, it's got a 200 megapixel sensor. Everybody else is rocking 50s, which they all bend down to 12 megapixels, right? If it's a 48 to 50 megapixel, it's a 4 times pixel bend. And I think it's 12 or 8 or whatever. I don't know what it is. I don't remember the math, but they all bend down to 12 megapixels, which is a lot of information in one photo. When you look at HDR, I think that Google and Apple are doing better in the HDR department. Of course, Samsung has night sight. They've got that stuff, which is pretty cool. And yeah, overall, when you take a look at them on a day-to-day experience, it's very similar. It's just a matter, I think a lot of it boils down to what you want in a phone. If you like to have Apple, if you like that cool stuff, you also like to have satellite communication, which I made a video about yesterday. The satellite communication thing's kind of nice. At least we have emergency SOS with satellite on the Pixels now. We don't even have that with the Samsung. So Samsung, I think, has fallen pretty big behind in that regard, because Apple's had the emergency SOS for 2 years. Now you can just send satellite messages to other people. You can text them. That's pretty neat. I used it the other day when I was out in the middle of nowhere and I lost signal. So yeah, that's a nicety. Is it a must-have? No, not necessarily. I mean, you take a look around the market and what people do. I mean, the iPhone 16 and 16 Plus still have a 60 hertz screen, and those are $800-900 phones, which would never fly in Android at all. Period. End of story. But it is the world that we live in. So, yeah, I think that from a most complete functionality perspective, I still think the S24 Ultra is the Ultra. I mean, you can't do anything like it with Google or with the iPhone or with OnePlus. You can't. I mean, you certainly don't have the level of megapixels, which don't really matter that much. And if anything, it might even hurt the camera because it's so much data. The shutter speed and processing takes a little bit longer, especially in like RAW and things like that. So that's not as big of a leg up as people think it is, but it is certainly a capability. Now, the ones that do matter, though, DeX, I think that's really a big thing. And the ecosphere is even better than ever at the Samsung. Of course, we got the Galaxy Watch Ultra, which I love. That's a good one. We got the new Tab S10, Tab S10 Plus and Ultra. You've got all the Samsung stuff. The new Galaxy Buds 3 Pro, I think, are probably the best earbuds on the market between Google and Samsung and Apple. Of course, let me throw that out there. I haven't tested the Pixel Buds 2 Pro yet, so those could be better. I haven't tested those, but I think they are better than the AirPods Pro. And so, yeah, I think competitively when it comes to ecosphere, if you like Android and you like Samsung stuff, I think it's a better point than it's ever been. I think that DeX still offers a one-of-a-kind phone experience. Even, I mean, yes, I know Motorola kind of has a little bit of a desktop client now, but it's nowhere near as capable, and it's definitely not as widespread, and it's definitely not as usable. So they still win in the desktop experience on a phone, wired and wireless. I think they still win with the S Pen and multitasking. So if you like multitasking, productivity, and you like having those extra capabilities, no question, the Ultra is the Ultra is the Ultra. And then the iPhone offers its own experience over in the Apple world. If you don't like Android, you're probably going to gravitate towards that. And I think the iPhone 16 Pro Max, so much better polished, and not having the issues like we had last year with the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the heat and the charging and the signal department. Like, those problems were very frustrating. The battery life was terrible. Heat issues were terrible. Signal terrible. I know some people didn't have that experience, but I did, and I know a lot of other people that did. So I think Apple's had a good rebound year. They've also got the camera control button on the side now, and they brought cool things like the 4K 120 for the slow-mo, which if you care about that. And then on top of that, the studio microphone capability. Those microphones are good. Like, they're really good. So, yeah, they make a good name for themselves. And then the Pixel, again, regardless of what this offers, regardless of the fact that it has a Tensor 4, and if you think that's better or worse than a Snapdragon 8 Generation 3 for day-to-day usage and performance, then, I mean, yeah, that's cool. Spend your money where you want to spend it. But it's been a really refreshing experience with the Pixel 9 Pro XL, 9 Pro, especially the 9 Pro, bringing something to Android we haven't really had in a very long time, if ever, which is very comparable to the iPhone 16 Pro. So, yeah, I think the moral of the story is there's a lot of options out there, and there's a lot of competition, so you can't really go wrong with any flagship phone at this point in time. But I think probably the S24 Ultra is still the most complete phone and offers the widest experience on top of the normal flagship functionality, which, of course, it's amazing for gaming, too. Like, it's totally amazing for gaming. Snapdragon 8 Generation 3, 12 gigs of RAM, big, beautiful screen, 2600 nits brightness. You can play games at maxed out till the cows come home. So I think maybe even still a better gaming experience there. And I think even the benchmark show, I think it might be better than the iPhone in that regard if you actually care about benchmarks, which I don't. The iPhone and the S24 Ultra, they max pretty much everything out, so it's not really anything you need to worry about. And the Pixel even has pretty good gaming experience as well, at least from my experience. So, yep, this analysis at the end of the video, I think the S24 Ultra, I think it's still, I don't know that it's the best. I think it's hard to use that word best. I think it's the most complete flagship phone that's out there if you care about it. If you don't care about DeX and you don't care about an S Pen, it really opens things wide open. And then you've got things that you could talk about like the Pixel 9 Pro XL and the OnePlus 12. And the OnePlus 12 is like the sleeper flagship of the year because it offers such good performance. It still is a little behind in the upgrade department where they don't quite give you monthly upgrades, and it's not 7 years or monthly updates. And the camera in some ways may not be as polished, but from a perspective, like a performance experience and battery and charging and a beautiful screen, yeah, the OnePlus 12 is a great phone, and it's significantly cheaper. But anyway, so that's all I got. That's kind of what I don't think it's necessarily the best. And unless you care, if you care about those things, I think it is the best. And I kind of do care about some of that stuff, But for that, I use a Fold. Usually I use a Fold, which has an S Pen as well, because if I'm in a multitask, I want the bigger screen. I want to be able to open it and close it. I still want to have the S Pen experience. So yeah, that's a whole nother comparison between the Ultra and the foldable phones. But then you got to take it up a notch. You got to spend $18.99 instead of $12.99. So yeah, I think that the S24 Ultra still has a very solidified top shelf experience whenever it comes to flagship performance, and it's still the king of multitasking if you're not a foldable, and that carries a lot of weight with some people. Big screen, big stylus experience, big cameras, everything with the Samsung Ultra is Ultra. And that's kind of how they roll. So that's all I got in this video. Let me know what you think. What is your favorite? What do you think the best flagship phone is out there? It's a hard question to answer because, well, quite frankly, the phones offer so many different experiences at a very comparable level of performance now, which is, well, kind of reaching the end of the road, I think, when it comes to a lot of these performance comparisons. But anyway, that's all I've got. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, gripes, complaints, you know where to go. Head down in the comment section, and I'll do my best to get back with you. If you enjoyed the video, please hit the like and the subscribe button and the little notification bell if you want updates when new videos come out. And as always, thanks for being here. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you guys next time.